Hello and welcome to the I Trained You podcast. This is Coach Brandon Adams here with another week of talking about basketball and how you can get from where you are to where you want to be and what are those necessary steps to do so. And why would you do these steps? And a lot of times we get a lot of players out here who are really not sure about how they're trying to navigate this whole basketball process. So they're out looking at all these videos or they get with these coaches that really aren't. I'm not going to say they're not qualified. They're just not necessarily able to help guide them through the necessary steps. Like we can even talk a little bit about proximity and contact. I was training a kid this last weekend and he was struggling really trying to make contact. This was yesterday, actually, and he was struggling trying to make contact with his defender. And so finally, he got it. And so we call it curbing in our program, where you actually will make a movement, go to an area, and as the defense closes back out on you, then you're actually driving back into the inside shoulder or hip of that defender to get them to back off. Because typically in the boys' game, you're going to see that there's 3 to 5 moves that are necessary or counter moves that are necessary in order to be effective. And a lot of times we're just not practicing how to do that. We're not training ourselves on how to do that. We're doing drills, but we're not actually building skills. And so what I'm excited about is I'm actually going to be the head coach for high school varsity program. The first time in my career that I've actually taken this on, and I've resisted. I've had 2 college opportunities in my lifetime to be able to really pursue. But what was interesting about this is, number one, I'm doing it for my kids, right? And I'm also doing it because I want to make an impact in the community, especially now that I'm older and I'm watching so many of these kids where coaches don't have the ability to really spend the time with individual skill development. And I mean, that's really, really something that we have to drive home. And if you look at other sports like ice skating and you look at tennis, I mean, they've had personal trainers for years, but this has now become a big business for basketball. But education is more important than doing drills. And I want to repeat that. Getting with an education specialist is different. So a lot of these coaches out here will put you through a workout. They'll go and they'll watch all these videos on Instagram and YouTube or whatever else, and that's fine. But then they're going to put you through this workout. And at the end, what did you really train to develop? And how is that going to stack up against what happens next week, the week after, the week after? So there's some predictability in exposure, number one, and some predictability in potential success. Now, we all can talk about, well, my son doesn't do this or my daughter doesn't do that. And so just like in academics, some kids are more predisposed to adapting to a particular environment. And so if that environment academically might be science where they do really well at, or it might be math that they do really well at, in basketball, it's similar. Maybe it's they like to shoot, and or maybe it is they like to drive, that feeling of driving, or being critically aware of their environment. And so all we want to do is give our kids the Harvard of education. And if we give them, and that's no disrespect to any other school, but just the best education that you can possibly give a kid. I should have said the Miami of education because that's where I went. But we want to give those kids the highest probability of success because they've got the best education. So as a parent, when you're choosing your coaches to work and influence your son or daughter's life, what questions are you asking them? And so today we have, obviously, Coach Nysear is going to be on the show as always. Coach Brad is not able to be on this week. However, we do have a special guest. He's a parent, he's a former player, and he's becoming a really good friend of mine. So you guys will get a chance to meet him. But first, before we do that, let's bring on Nysear. Nysear, how you doing today, buddy?
How you doing? I'm good.
That's good. That's good. So, I love the fact that we have this special guest that's coming on because this is another parent. We had Stan Carlisle on a couple of weeks ago, and I thought that was really insightful. And no knock against Stan, but this parent here that's coming on, he was a player. he was a player. And so this is like him going through the college experience, and then he played professionally overseas, all the rest of those things, that mindset, and then really tapping into, now I have a son that's interested in being a great basketball player. I can't wait to bring him on the show. This is going to be, because look, I got kids. I'm like, I don't know what to do sometimes. But, one of my sons, he played very well yesterday, didn't he?
Yeah.
We got to give him a shout out. Were
I
you
was proud of
surprised?
him.
Were you surprised?
I wasn't surprised, but I was proud.
Yeah, for sure. And the whole thing is, and this is why we have hard attempts in our program, and this is why, and we'll talk a little bit about hard attempts and what that means. And so one of the things that I want to share with everybody, like we have our panelists of trainers that come on, and those panelists, they have different philosophies, different mentalities for coaching, different educational curriculum that they offer. And what we love about our environment is that for our show and everything that we do, that everybody has something to offer. So just because we're dominant with what we're talking about, what we do with I Trained You, that doesn't take away from any of our panelists that are trainers and coaches. And we, really want that stimulating conversation. So, but let's talk a little bit about hard attempts real quick before we bring Khari out. What I noticed from, I'm not going to name, the child that we're talking about here, but what I noticed is that he understood what the hard attempt concept was yesterday.
Yeah.
And so for parents out here, just as an education, and I don't know what your trainers or your coaches call it, but if you've ever heard a parent or a kid or a coach say, play like you did last game, and they can't, it's because, or they don't, it's sometimes because they can't really lock into what they were doing that worked. Or just like you were talking about, one of the kids on the other team, his knees were hurting. So you were like, look, you got to be shifty to try to get by him because, right now he's got an issue.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes we don't know what those issues are. So my point is that when we start to think about how we approach game to game to game, the building blocks have to come from something that we can tangibly understand. So if I'm a dynamic player and I make a dynamic move against my defender, then we call that a hard attempt. And so let's before I jump into that a little bit, let's bring Khari on for a second. You ready for him?
Yeah.
I have one question. Khari, you might be a little better than Nysear right now on the court. Is that a fact or is that fiction? I'm starting something.
Brandon, I'm retired, right? You try to bring me out of retirement every
Look,
day.
I'm a little older than you. I was playing yesterday. Was I playing yesterday, Nysear?
Yeah.
Yeah. You live in the gym. That
I know.
You live in the gym.
But my elbows hurt, my knees hurt, my back hurts. But so what do you think? You think that if I get out there with the boys on the varsity team this year, you think that I might be able to hold my own?
Yeah.
Are they going to have some problems?
Yeah.
Yeah. Will they understand?
Conditioning could be a factor, Brandon.
Huh?
I say conditioning could be a factor.
It won't be a factor because I'm going to sit down. Down. So everybody listen, I want you to meet a good friend of mine, Khari Brown. Khari is Khari, look, you and I have had a chance to become friends over the years. And I'm just going to state that we've talked about your son and his development for years. And then this summer, we decided to take a leap. And so we're going to talk about that because I think that for a lot of parents, they don't necessarily understand, like, when is the right time? Why is the right time? How is the right time? Like, there's a lot of moving parts, scheduling, all those types of things, because when you make an investment, you're not just making an investment of money, you're making an investment of time. And there's got to be some expectation of effort. But before we talk about that, tell us a little bit about yourself, about your basketball background.
My basketball background, I wasn't the best player growing up and hit my growth spurt late. So my junior year of high school, averaged about 4 points a game, came off the bench. My senior year, the guy who was supposed to be the best player got hurt right before the season. All of a sudden, I'm averaging 20 points a game, getting a lot of shots. And so, basketball to me success came later. And then in college, I went to Tufts University, a Division III school. Didn't start again until I was a junior. And then success came, in my junior and senior year. And then got to play overseas in Finland.
Great.
Had an amazing experience there.
And what's beautiful about that, and I loved it because we had a young man on the show last week, and he's a professional player, but most people don't get it, that you can play D3 and D2 and go overseas. And your goal was just to play and have as much fun as long as you possibly could.
I mean, I love the game of basketball. At that time, I came out in 94. There were not a lot of D3 players who were going overseas. I probably knew, 5, 6 at that time. And where I was playing, basketball was just really becoming, it was really developing in Finland in the 90s. So it was a great opportunity for me and life-changing one. And so, I after playing, I did a little bit of coaching, and I was an assistant for a few years for a very successful high school team in Massachusetts, Medford Mustangs, and just I was involved with the game every year until I turned about 28.
I love it.
And then I had to, move in a different direction with my career, and my career went in a different direction. I got to coach my kids when they were 9, 10, 11, and that was as fun as anything I've done in the game, honestly.
Absolutely. Like this has been pure joy for me to participate in my kids' lives, because all we're doing is stacking wonderful memories, right?
Yeah.
And it's beautiful for our children. So let me tell you about the hard attempts, as I was talking about before, and then I want to jump into what is that dynamic with you being such a hard competitor, and then now you have your son, and so there's things you see. Like, it's not like you're living through, like, I don't feel like I'm living through my kids. This is their journey. And I've watched you. You don't feel like you're living through your son. But at the end of the day, there's things that you're like, man, if you just get this here, we can move on to step 345. But without getting to this step, we're stuck at 0, So that's kind of what it is. But within these hard attempts, when you're a catch and shoot or a static kind of a player or a role player, and you're not able to dynamically navigate and get by a defender or attack to draw a double team or a triple team, then what happens is that that's not repeatable in the next game. It's just not. And so for a lot of parents and a lot of kids, they don't recognize when their kids are going to practice or sitting on the bench somewhere and they're playing for these powerful teams, their kids are not building up this dynamicism that we're looking for, so that when they're playing from game to game, they're actually having some predictability of success. Because I know that if I'm able to draw a double and a triple team and I can score off of it because they know I'm a pass and kick out or whatever, then that's predictable to the next game. Right? Like, we look at Khari. If Khari plays a game like, I don't know, Kyle Korver, like, if that's all he does is just stand there and catch and shoot, something's wrong. Like, is he sick? Like, that's not, and we know who Kyle Korver is because he was a really good shooter, but we don't really think of him the same way that we do with the Khari. Right. And so what we do is we say that, all right, if you have 20 points in a game and you only scored on hard attempts 3 times, then really you only have 6 points or 9 points or whatever that would be. And the reason why that is because the only thing that's going to be predictable is those 6 or 9 points in the next game.
Okay.
I had a teammate of mine when I was a freshman in high school named Gordon Manning. Shout out to Gordon, buddy. And so Gordon had 20 points in this game, and he was 10 for 10, but they were all fast break layups. And so it sounded great that you had 20 points, but was that predictable that you could go out and get another 20 the next game? And if anybody said, man, do what you did the last game, like that would just sound silly, right? So these hard attempts are designed to help us to understand the value of how we're scoring. Okay. And so sometimes, like when I make that pass and I kick it out to you off of that drive, Khari, and then you're able to just pull up and knock the shot down, and you're a dynamic player, but you're able to knock that shot down and do no work, then I'm going to get a hard assist, even though you're going to get 2 soft points. So, because that's not predictable that I'm going to kick the ball out to you next game 10 times for you to get another 20 points. So we start looking at what are our hard assists? So my drives and my kick out, do I get that paint touch and then do I get that kick out? So what we want, again, we have hard rebounds and we have hard steals. So what happens is that when players start to understand that I'm just trying to get me 5 hard attempts a quarter, and now that's how they're operating, that changes everything for them. So now you might have a coach that says, I don't need you doing all that. I don't need you putting the ball on the floor. You just stand over here and you shoot. Now you got to live with that. And as a parent, you've got to decide if you want your kid to just be a catch and shoot kid for the rest of his life. How did the kid that's dynamic get that way? He had to get break some eggs to make an omelet. Mm-hmm. So a lot of that kind of comes into play that parents should really think about when they're trying to develop their kids is how much dynamics is my kid going to get? We played against a kid yesterday, Khari, and this kid was a lights out shooter. Like literally, it was a surprise. He might have had 5 threes, 6 threes, and only missed one of them. But at the end of the day, he wasn't the best player on the floor. The best player on the floor happened to be the kid on my team that was dribbling past people, pulling back up, driving, moving, spinning, and getting his points. And that's the kid that, like, after the game, coaches were coming over. I mean, this kid has a practice with New World tomorrow. Like, things happen. I'm not saying nothing against the other kid, but that child can't put the ball on the floor. So he's got to wait for everybody else to do all the work and then kick it. So that takes me. So now we understand what hard attempts are. Yeah. Did I miss anything with that, Nysear?
No.
So now we need to jump to what are some of the things you deal with as a former basketball player on a great level? What do you deal with your son in terms of his development? What is that like for you?
Well, it's a process, and we're making great progress. And, you know, I try to remind myself, because I'm an impatient person by nature.
Okay. I haven't seen that, but that's okay.
I'm a very competitive person by nature. And I can see, because I've played the game and I've been around the game for 40 years more, I can see what is ahead, you know, if he puts in the work and if he's doing the right things. So at times I want to skip steps or not skip steps because I know it's a process, but I get impatient, right? And I have to understand that, you know, in order to get there, we got to have, progress is not always a straight line.
Yeah.
There has to be some struggle so you understand and can make adjustments, right? And people go at their own pace. And so but it's been great to watch, and I love it. You know, I wouldn't trade it for anything.
So a couple things. So Brad is actually able to join the show, so we're going to bring him on in just a second. But talk a little bit about what the process was for you to say, okay, now, especially as a former player, where and I'm not being facetious about this, but basketball, right? So
Yeah.
you know what it takes to be a great player. You know
Right.
drills. You are a coach as well.
Right.
Why did you turn your son over to me?
Yeah. Well, I thought it was the right time because I felt like he wanted it, and it was hard to tell because I love the game so much and I'm so passionate about it. I did not want to push him farther than he was ready to go. And I've said to him, I'm your dad first, right? And that relationship, that is what's most important to me. And so I didn't want him to be doing it because I wanted it, right? I wanted it because he loved the game. And so, I wasn't sure when the right time was, to be honest with you. I wonder if we could have started a year earlier, but I'm not sure that he would have been ready to do the kind of work you had him doing this summer, right? When he, like
that was
we tested the limits. We
Yeah.
tested the limits a little bit. And, there has to be that inner drive, I believe, and you have to build that. One of the things that you and I talked about, right, as you asked me, and I told you this before, well, I said he's not working.
Yeah.
You said, does he know how to work?
Exactly.
And that's a capacity. It's a muscle that we build. But I guess I just didn't want to get there before I thought that he was ready to receive it and to put in, and have it be from himself and not to please dad.
I'm going to bring Brad on right now. Coach, what's up, buddy?
Hey, what's going on, Brandon? How you doing?
Man, we're doing great. So, hey, Brad, this is Khari. This is Brad.
Hey, how are you doing? We met what, a week ago?
Yeah, at the gym. Right.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
That's right. His son, you called him the shooter. He was lights out, baby.
Yeah.
So, that was burgundy and black.
Yeah.
Yeah. Burgundy and black.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. He very consistent. Picks up the moves. Picks up what Brandon is teaching him very quickly. Is able to incorporate it very quickly. I definitely saw that.
Yeah, we're getting there. We're building.
Me and Clay was about that right away.
Oh yeah. So one of the big things as a parent, like your son goes to Jackson Reed, right? Mm-hmm. And that's one of the more competitive teams in the nation, right?
Mm-hmm. It is, yeah.
So, what is that? Because I guess he'll either play JV or varsity, right? I don't think they have a freshman team.
They do have a freshman team. It doesn't really track to varsity experience, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of the stuff that you're going through could be intimidating for a kid to like know that, number one, there's kids that are going to be trying to go to Jackson Reed every year, new kids. So you can't really say I'm a parent when it comes to these types of programs. Right. So what is that like as a parent, knowing that if your son wants to continue to play or have a chance to play in college, you may have to make hard decisions about, hey, we love this school, it's near us, blah, 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 but my kid really wants to play basketball. Do you make that sacrifice? When do you determine that sacrifice, like you don't want to wait till his junior year and he gets cut or, is not ready, like you were a late bloomer.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So when do you start thinking about that, or have you even put that in your mind?
I'm not thinking about it too much right now because he's got to play his way into other opportunities if that's, so we got to focus on that first. And so we're just worried about having a great, preparing right now. We're preparing for the season, having a great season. And that's all to focus on right now.
Is his level of commitment where you want it as a competitor?
Oh, well, like I said, we're developing here, right? We always say that there's levels, right? Levels to this. And so how do we develop that competitive edge by, competing against people who are better than we are, getting knocked down, right? Realizing we gotta up our game a little bit more and come back next time with some more, right? And all the best players they learn from struggle, right? And so, that's the process.
So what are you? And I guess this is a tough question. Are you seeing the kind of growth in him? I mean, I know I'm trying to state it because I know what we talk about, but I'm trying to state it. What do you think? Are you seeing some of the boxes starting to check off since we've been in this relationship?
For sure. We've come a long way in a short period of time. And, I love what Brad was saying about he's picking up, he listens, right? He's processing and growing. The competitiveness, he will have to grow for sure. And toughness, he will absolutely have to grow. And, I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
Because, but there's no way of, feeding it into you. Like, you got to grow through experiences, right? And our capacity grows, through those things.
So what we say is that, like, we have a creed in our program, and I know your son knows it, and that is you become a subject matter expert first.
Mm-hmm.
Second, be the best version of yourself. And third, surround yourself with people who inspire.
I love that. Yeah, I love that.
Thank you. That's our family creed. I'm sure my sons don't know it, but
no, they do. Come on now.
Can you please ask him every day, please, Brad? Please help me. So I believe that you have to master something first, right? Like, I'm trying to get your son to shoot at the top of his jump, bring his elbow there at the sacrifice of missing, and knowing just like there's different layup types, you may have to, like, depending on how far back you are, he may have to keep the shot that he has where he's got the low shot pocket when he's 30 feet from the basket. But when he wants to reach his athletic potential against kids that are taller than him, he's going to have to elevate and get that elbow to the chin, right?
Sure.
And it's got to be quicker.
It got to be quicker too, yeah.
It's got to be quicker. So we have to train that. And so part of the game, like you texted me yesterday, I'm just going to put it out there. You were like, he's not being aggressive. He's not attacking. He's not, creating the contact and all the rest of it. You said it got better later, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of it is like psychological to me because kids don't necessarily, like, if I look at Brad, you big and you strong, man. I might not go with you because I don't know, what kind of day you're having. If I hit you wrong, I might be in trouble, Brad. You got my back? You got my back, buddy?
Hey, I got your back.
All right.
Not that big and not that
Man,
strong.
let me tell you. So yesterday, I'm playing against a former NFL. What was he, Nysear?
I think a defensive tackle. So.
Man, this dude is big. He's like 6'6", 6'7", 290, and he still looks like he should be out on the field, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Man, and I'm like, man, how am I going to get past this joker here? And he's all excited. I'm like, there's a 30-year difference between us. But that's okay, Brad. You would have been proud. You would have been proud. I only got hurt a little bit.
A little bit.
Just a little bit.
Chalk one up for the older guys.
Man. So a lot of times kids are in fear of what they don't understand or what might be unknown. So if I size a guy up and I really don't know, or he's acting crazy, then in the warm-ups or whatever, and I'm like, man, I don't know if I want to be aggressive with him. He might snap off and get pissed. So you've got to train yourself to get around that. So we look at the games as a test to really see where we are. So when we go back in the lab, we can start working on how do I deal with people that I don't know and I still apply the same skill sets and hope that the referee might get there in time to break this dude, it comes down to because we don't know. And that's hard, right? And so your son is a great kid, wouldn't harm a fly. And because he's got that type of personality, Grant Hill is in my era, and he's a really nice guy, just like your son, right? But some way he turned on this competitive side and was able to ignore the noise.
Yeah.
That's what I think you're talking about when you text me like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I asked myself, when did I get that?
Yeah.
And where did it come from? And I don't know the actual answer, but I think that it developed over time because the more you compete, particularly as you go up against better competition, right? And you're now going up against someone who's as intense as you are, right? And you got to match them or get above them, and that's what separates us, right? So it's a process, Brandon. I believe it's a process. And we just have to, keep putting in the work and building it. And part of the creed, surrounding yourself with the right people.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, and going to that, it's difficult because a lot of times we're playing organized basketball. So you're running sets. And in order to become dynamic, Brad, I think you would agree, you almost have to play pickup. Because you need to be able to make mistakes without fear of a coach jumping down your throat. You got to be able to try stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you got to be able to experiment a little bit without, like you said, without a coach jumping down your throat. You have to have the freedom to kind of do a little trial and error, to see how these skills that we're working on in training sessions translate to live competition, and that little streak you guys are talking about, you have to have a little bit of a mean streak to be successful, to compete with the big boys. You want to be a college player, you got to have that. You got to have that gear that you can turn to.
So Brad, without being esoteric with it, let's talk about some of the strategies as a trainer you use to help put the meat on the bone.
I want to build confidence. I'm a reps guy. I do, like when I came in with you that day, you had a nice group there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I do a lot of individual training, and my small group training is 2 or 3 guys, so that I can jump in there at any time and correct one of them jokers. Nobody lags behind. I believe that through repetition, you get the confidence that you need to be able to perform. And that's what I see. Like, all right, you had what, 5 kids that day? A lot of these.
Probably it would be 5. Yeah.
Okay. So, but I'm saying a lot of training sessions I've seen, they got 10 kids.
Yeah.
10 kids with 1 U. Maybe even more with 1 U.
You have to
That,
be very organized.
yeah, that makes some things difficult.
So so when you're teaching like in a clinical environment where you do have large numbers,
Mm-hmm.
you got to really understand, number one, in advance what kind of players you have. Like
Yes.
we have a player that's hopefully coming into program, and he's 12, but he's undersized, right? For 12 right now, he hadn't hit that growth spurt. So so going against Caden, you know, that's not going to be good for Caden, right? Because he doesn't want to run over him, and he's 2 years older, blah blah blah. So
Right.
I have to be extremely organized with my setup to make sure that Caden gets everything he needs, and also the new student won't be overwhelmed at the same time, so that it's a win-win. But that takes years of being able to understand, navigate, and position. And sometimes you guys just can't do a drill together. Like
Right.
it just not going to happen. It's not
That's
going to happen.
That's true.
So, you know, one of the things, Khari, like when you start to think about AAU,
Yeah.
what are the three, Brad, top AAU programs in the city?
Ooh, Takeover, probably Durant, DC Premier,
Mm-hmm.
Takeover, Durant. I think that's it. And if we're talking about the top ones,
Yeah,
um,
is New World up there?
New World's probably in that conversation. New World's definitely in that conversation.
So, and who does Caden play for?
Pro Skills.
Okay. So, do you look to make that jump, Khari? Is that the goal for you as a parent? Do you want him playing for one of those top four programs?
All things being equal, yeah. I mean, if it's the right situation, yeah. But again, similar to what I said before, he's got to play his way. You know, what we're focused on right now is getting better every day, and let your game do the talking, right? And if you can play, people are going to come. They're going to recruit you. They're going to want you.
Mm-hmm.
Nysear, what are your thoughts about AAU and really focusing on top four AAU programs?
I feel like if you get into it, it's a lot of games. So like you might play a lot of games, but it don't mean that you're necessarily picking up any new skills or like real development to get you to that next level. So a lot of these kids that we know right now that are like amazing might not ever get to that next level if they take the AAU route versus actually developing.
So one of the things that I say, Brad, is if you're not in the top 6 or 7, then you kind of want to shy away from, because you're not really going to get that exposure. Those top 4 programs, unless you really just want to spend a year or two so that your kids can see what that level of intensity is like, where that bump is, it's hard to be number 7 to number 12. Get the exposure, be frustrated. You're going to be doing all this traveling with your parents. You're not going to be getting into games, all the rest of that stuff. I'm not really sure that's not the direction that I'm heading, because I'm not getting the results from, like we're talking about earlier, Khari. I'm not getting that test where I can actually come back, get back in the lab and really get to work and see where we are in the heat of the battle when I need you. Like in the game yesterday, the young boy that we were talking about that was being dynamic, Nysear, would you have been surprised if he would have had 30 points and we would have won the game just with him? Would you have been surprised?
No.
Like that's what we're looking for. But if he would have made the Team Durant, we wouldn't have seen that.
Nope.
He wouldn't have gotten that opportunity. So I believe that you have to get in the heat of the battle and you have to be with the right team and the right situation and not worry about winning and losing. Like we've lost every game this season, Brad. Now that's not indicative of how good I am as a player, Brad. You understand what I'm saying? But we lost.
I know it was Nysear's fault.
It was Nysear. Yes. Now I see where the problem is.
Yeah.
No, listen, we are a developmental program, and it's funny, Khari, because I thought about it. If I were to bring Caden out, because he is 14 and under, and just say, hey, come play with us, they would allow it. And we would blow everybody out of the water. Everybody. Like, but the deal is that might be okay for Caden in terms of, no, it really wouldn't. It really wouldn't be. Like my older son plays on the team, but he's hurt. And I don't know, with him being out on the court, Nysear, we don't lose.
No, not one game.
Yeah. So my point is that I'm okay with him not playing, but losing is fine because the other kids are having to step up and learn what that's like. And I was super proud of them yesterday. So, a lot of these kids out here are thinking they got to be big and fast and strong and all the rest of that stuff. And so I want us to analyze a player, Khari, for a couple of minutes and just get our take on it. And that's Jalen Brunson. So I'm gonna share the screen and let's see if we can get let's see if I'm doing this right. All right, can we see? Yep, we can see everything. Okay. All right. So one of the things that we like to do, Khari, is we like to break down some game film. We got about 10 to 15 minutes left, and we want to see if we can see what these athletes are, the best players in the world, what they're looking at, and kind of do what we call a precog, where we figure out, based on the way the floor is set up, why do they see that there's an opportunity or an advantage for them to take over. So Brad, we obviously see in this situation that sees the defense looking away, but do you like his opportunity here to go to the basket? What do you see?
Well, I'm looking away. I'm looking at the defender. And yeah, it looks like he can go right by and get a paint touch with just a quick move. I mean, just by the way, the defender looks like he's up. He's more upright than ideal. That's guarding him. And
we lost Brad.
We lost Brad. Okay, cool. Khari, you're up. What do you see?
It looks like it's going to be a blow by here, and he's going to have to draw some help.
So, and I guess what you're saying is, on that draw of the help, he knows that he's got, who's that? Chencho. I can't.
Yeah,
Number 10 is either coming or the strong side corner here is coming.
And so this happens, right? And
Yep.
so he's got all of this stuff and he recognizes this, but I don't know if like his teammates were doing a great job of keeping that spacing. That's understanding like what's happening on the floor. Notice where he jumps from, Nysear. So in our program, we say, let me see, Brad's still not back. We say that you have to jump from the first hash above the block. And this is an opportunity, you know, we thank you for being on the show, but this is also an opportunity for us to really help parents to understand who we are, players to understand who we are and how we think and how we teach. So one of the things that we teach is the rule of execution. And so you'll notice a lot of these NBA guys purposely jump from the first hash above the block. And you have to train yourself to do that when you're coming down the lane. And that's called the rule of execution. And if you're coming from the right side or from the left side, you got to jump outside of the lane. And if you're athletic enough, you can jump outside of NBA paint, but we say the college or the high school, just so you'll know. And so look at that. Like, that's not an accident that he was able to make that. So here you go. This is a perfect one for you to see it. Go for it.
Well, he has a triangle. So his defender is somewhat in a neutral zone.
Mm-hmm. It's an arm and a half distance away. The defender's arm and a half. Uh-huh.
So I think he should just test him, give him maybe an in and out or something to see what the defender does. If he bumps up, he can drive by him because he has a triangle. Could be somewhat a diamond depending on where Hartenstein goes, which is the center in the back.
Yeah, so we would consider that a diamond. If his feet are in the paint, then he's going to be the final help, right? Like if this gentleman here that's guarding the corner on the bottom of the screen, if that defender who's out of the lane rushes over, that kick out's going to be strong.
Yeah.
That's too strong for him to recover. But if the center is in the lane and his player, Jalen's teammate, is down there, then there's a potential that number 14 could guard both.
Right.
So we call that a diamond. So what I see, and I'm still checking on whether or not there he is. So what I'm seeing is he's got to be thinking, if I want to go to the right, which is fine, because right now the strong side of the triangle is his right side, but also this defender is shading him to go to the right.
Right.
So I'm either going to test and try to get that foot to drop back because I'm thinking about the full, like where I'm headed. Like I'm not thinking, okay, I'll just see what happens. You know, if you're a great player, you're like, nah, I know I need to get on this right side so I can get these guys to converge onto me so my kickouts could be strong. So in this scenario here, if he attacks the top foot, goes to the weak side of the triangle, that right there is a heck of an opportunity for him to get downhill if he attacks the swing foot and hits that right hip of number 0. I don't even know who that is. Number 0. Who's that, Nysear?
I don't even know.
Oh, okay, cool. So, Khari, do you see that a little bit? And he's got shoulder down. So we don't necessarily know. Like lots of things can evolve and happen. I mean, shoot, a fan can run out on the court. We don't know, but we're just saying the highest probability of success for us would be because he's got 12 feet or more between the two interior defenders. So if he can get by number 0, then it's just a straight shot. And if he follows the rule of execution and jumps in front of the first hash above the block, then there's a strong chance it's going to be difficult for the defense to stop, or they're going to be so off balance that his kickouts would be just, very easy. So as we see, he tested it.
Yeah.
He tested that top foot, and he gets the wide open shot. Now, what we would say off of this, Brad, is when he gets the defender to pop back, he's now 2 arms distance away versus what we talked about neutral, where he was 1.5. So now when you're 2 arms distance away, there's no way. See how that ball, Khari, is up there?
Mm-hmm.
Khari, that's what I'm looking for. Yeah, that's what we're looking for Caden to be able to do, is to get that elbow to the chin so that it's a harder contest. And we tell, look, you're either going to block it or you're not going to block it. But I need to have the most confidence shooting it. And if you block it, then I'm just going to say you got lucky or I was tripping. Give me the ball again.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead, Khari. What are you seeing?
Oh, he looks like he's trying to test him a little bit. I don't know who's this. This is L.A.
Austin Reeves.
Reeves. Yeah. He's got help is coming up on his right side, so he's got a kick to the corner if he takes a dribble to his right. He's also got help coming to the middle, and he could kick. But I know Jalen Brunson, he wants to.
He wants to score.
Yeah, and he wants to. He's one of the best in the league at getting into the paint, getting 2 feet in the paint.
Yep.
So Brad, do you think right now that he's thinking, that he can drive on this though? Is he thinking that because those defenders
they're not there's not the 12 feet of separation that you talk about.
Yep.
If he, like, I don't know who that is in the corner for the Knicks, but is he really a shooting threat? Because it looks like the way this guy's playing it, he's okay with getting back late.
Well, and the dude his right foot is out of bounds. Like Jalen can't pass him the ball.
Yeah, he can't pass the ball. Not right now. You're right. 55's in the dunker spot. That looks like LeBron is guarding. Yeah, and LeBron is staying home for right now.
Yeah.
Number 9 looks like he's ready to cut.
Or he might be ready to shoot. See, it's hard because when you're a dynamic player, I believe if you don't have the ball, like if you're in a situation with a big 3, like I'm telling number 9 to do what you just said. Like all of the area is wide open. If he cuts behind, because we already know that this is a hard attempt from Jalen Brunson. So number 9 could cut right behind number 2.
Absolutely.
And that's a wide open shot right there. Like I'm telling Jalen to dance all night right there so he can occupy all 3 of these defenders. And but I think he's going to potentially shoot. Yeah, and I was right. Because because the way I see it, I felt like he didn't have enough space. He didn't feel like he had more than 12 feet to get past the Austin Reeves. So
right. Yeah, I saw that as well.
So go ahead.
He got a line attack.
So he's got a line attack on this side.
But he got to be helping.
Because he's got nobody in this corner. So if he beats him and he's now got 5-on-4 coming downhill, then Wemby's going to have to overcommit, and that's going to leave that post player open. So, this to me automatically with him in the bumper right there, Brad, stepping outside with 3-point, he's too far away from the basket that if he gets beat, it's going to be a hard recovery for him. Real hard recovery. All right, so he didn't take advantage of that. So he's just going to bully basketball. I mean, he sort of took advantage. He realized that he had that line attack, so going away from the defense was going to give him the opportunity to score. Yeah. And look at that. He used a perimeter post in the series. He's using that. It's interesting how these guys operate, and I need Caden to feel like he could be the next Jalen Brunson with this. I mean, he's creating the physicality, and dude is just backing down.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things that we're talking about, right? First contact.
First contact, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
It's a guard mid post up. Yep.
And so take a look at number two.
Also,
number two, wide open. Go ahead, Brad.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Can you hear me?
Brad, we can hear you.
You were talking about raising his release up, right?
We were talking about what?
Hello?
Brad, you're choppy.
And his the set. Oh wow. All right. It's yeah, my thing has been acting up. In the future I'll probably send it to myself like what we have been doing, because this is to my iPad. And yeah, it was running out of juice. It's been running out of juice all day.
Sorry, man. So, Khari, he's got the original.
That's what that is.
He's operating with the original iPad.
Get the update.
You got the prototype.
I need the update. I definitely need the update.
2007.
Brandon is absolutely
right. It's all
He's
good.
Absolutely right.
We're having fun. So, you know, guys, we could do this all day, and that's why we keep this to an hour where we're analyzing the games and just taking a few clips and trying to really apply, like, what is the education that we're using, you know? And a lot of these players out here, they don't have that. They just go out there and they just play. And that's not skillful, and that's not professional. And we want kids to become professionals so they know what they're looking at. They know why they're looking at it. They've seen it 1,000 times. They recognize the patterns. And from those patterns, there's something magical that can happen. And that is these pattern windows open up and they know the highest probability of success.
Brandon, I wish I'd had this kind of teaching when I was in high school. You know, seriously, you know, I would have. There wasn't anything like this, you know, and I would have been. I would have wanted to absorb it all.
Yeah,
that's part of the reason why, you know, I want that for my son. You know, we always want better for our kids, right?
I agree, and thank you. I mean, the goal is we want to share this with the world, and it's just better basketball. I mean, there's so much more detail, like, you know, is the defense on the right side of the body or the left side of the body? Where is the ball? Is the ball on the strong side with the defender? And how do you give confirmation? There's so much breakdowns that we have to study, and then we have to train, and then we have to test, and that's in a game situation, and then come back to the lab, figure out what we need to do. And this is where it's interesting, because I believe that, you know, Derrick Rose was amazing before he got hurt. But when he got hurt, I believe some of those details, some of those things that had become almost instinctual, they were kind of gone because he wasn't as confident with his athleticism. I don't believe that, say, a Khari, if he gets hurt, that he operates with that same need to be athletic, because he's going to get you with tempo and timing and skill a little differently. And that's not to take away. I think Derrick Rose's return has been amazing this year. We've talked about that before. But I just think that if you really break it down, that a lot of these athletes that are on the highest level that we see, they know this stuff we're talking about. And they got it either through trial and error. They had some incredible educators in their lives, and they were able to apply the skills because they had the psychological fortitude that Albert Einstein has had, you know, and we see, like, just people that are just gifted in whatever respective thing that they're doing. So those critical awareness skill sets is what we're trying to build. And so I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for sharing your family and allowing us to work with your son, Nysear, and I truly appreciate it. And Nysear, you can speak for yourself.
Okay.
But you know, Brad, he's knowing your son and being able to watch him and also make positive deposits in his life, it just means so much to us. So, and thank you for coming on the show, sharing your perspective, and your journey. And hopefully we'll do this again.
No, it's been a real pleasure, and I'm grateful, for the work that you're putting in with him and helping him develop as a person, not just as a player. That's another thing I like about the program is we talk about leadership development, and he comes home and tells me about it.
That's my boy. That's my boy.
We're learning, we're growing. Yeah, and I'm excited. I'm excited to see what's ahead.
Thank you. Me too. And it's funny because, and Brad's a part of our ecosystem, but the 24 principles of leadership, if we don't understand that college coaches want leaders on the team, like that's silly. So if you're not teaching leadership and you don't have a curriculum-based leadership component, it's hard. Like you really just have to be a super athlete. But then when you get to that next level, you may not be able to translate everything because you don't have your leadership tight. So that's a whole nother conversation. But, that's why we're only on 4 hours. So hopefully we'll get a chance to come back and do more.
Next time.
So be great. Brad, your assignment for the week, man, is to just do the update on the iPad. That's the assignment. That's all we got to do.
No, I got you.
So nothing, man. There's an update button. Bring it over and I'll be with you. So I don't know where Coach Nysear is, but I appreciate everybody. I love you guys so much, and I'll see you guys on the court.
Thank you, guys. Love you, Brandon.
All right.
Have a good night, everybody.
Sounds...
Bye-bye.
All right.